So if you need to retake or want to retake a test, some of you guys haven't, or most of you, I've only given a couple of retakes this semester so far. So I just want to make sure it's clear on what you need to do in order to do a retake. So I'll stick with that, I guess. So for I went the wrong way. Well, I'll learn sooner or later. So for retakes, we need to, first of all, you have to have all your missing work done for that chapter. So whatever you're doing a retake on, all the missing work has to be in. So if you're doing a retake for chapter 4, all your missing work has to be turned in, and it has to be quality. So you're not just turning in, I post the answers online if you ever watch the videos. If you just go ahead and copy the answers off the video or out the back of the book, you're not getting anything out of that. So doing that missing work is hopefully going to be practice to get you ready for the test. So your missing work has to be in. Then, in addition to that, you have to come and do corrections on the test you want to retake. So you come in and say, I have to go through all the questions that I didn't understand. Now, if people are online, then that's a little bit different, so they just have to let me know. So we do corrections on the old test. So I would say leave a day in AR for that typically, unless the test is really bad. And then we just take a new version of the test. Now, I don't try to make the test super, I don't try to make it more difficult. I just basically take each of these questions and change the numbers. So there's going to be another slope question. There's going to be another, find the MNB. So I don't try to change it. I just change the numbers. So if you, for some reason, have all the answers memorized, you'd have to, that wouldn't work. So there's a new test, and then I average the two. And that's our school policy. That's not mine in particular, but you guys do get to retake tests, and that's a nice opportunity. Now, if for some reason, let's say this test has been good, but there's all these tests before that were really bad, I can be open to retaking an older test. You can't show up the last couple days of the semester and say, I need to retake all 3 tests, or all 4 tests we've taken this semester. So within reason, we can work backwards, kind of go find some older ones. But at the same time, look at your grade. Try to decide, if you got a C on this test and that's not really what you wanted, but your grade is where you're happy with it, make a decision about that. So if this is something you want to do, kind of AR is the best time to take care of the corrections and the retake. So just let me know. You are always welcome to come in here during AR typically, other than Wednesdays. So unless you finish your ACT stuff, or if you just happen to be in my AR already. Yes, dear?
Will you be taking the test for?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think I mentioned it, but I don't mind reiterating it. We probably will get one more regular test in. It probably might be a smaller point value because we don't have as many days before the semester, but yeah, we'll probably have one more assessment type, including a notes quiz. So notes quiz is going as homework, but so there will be one more. It is on writing equations, so we're still doing similar stuff, so slope-intercept form. So if this chapter went well for you, I'm assuming this next one will as well, just a kind of a precursor to what we're doing. So we probably will have one more, and then the exam. So I'm planning on that we would test the Monday of exam week, and then have 2 days to review for exams. It's kind of my thoughts. So if you're curious about where we're headed, so thinking on a test on Monday, the 15th, and then our exam is Thursday, the 18th. So that would be our first semester would be done then. So I'm thinking that's kind of I would cut us off basically to be able to test that Monday. Then we'd have 2 days to review for exam. I think that seems reasonable. And just so you guys know that this is kind of early to tell you guys this, but for the exam, I do typically allow you to make a note card, and it's a large note card. It's a half sheet of paper, just because I don't like you having to write minuscule. Rarely has anyone actually ever filled the size note card I give you. I don't want you to have to write so tiny, but so like formulas and examples, you guys can put those on the note card because the exam covers everything we've learned since January. So there's a lot of stuff on there. But you get a note card for that because it is that bigger test. So kind of like a little cheat sheet. Okay? Questions? So if you're thinking about retake, get on that now though, because I mean, really, how many ARs we have left before exams? Oh, and the deadline for retakes, I would say would have to be like the 17th. So, and that's an AR day or an ACT day. So I guess I'm going to say the 16th is the deadline. So the deadline will be March 16th, which gives us basically like, it's like not even 7, 1, 2. We don't count ACT days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 more regular 8-hour days in this semester, which is kind of shocking. But yeah, so don't wait on that. Okay? Questions at all? So look at your grade, decide what you'd be happy with, and we can try and work with you guys on that. But if you wait too long, sometimes too much has to be done in order to salvage things to a point. You know, to walk in and say, I have a D right now, I'd like to get an A, you know, and 100% in here, like that's obviously not reasonable. So, you're welcome. So this chapter is on similar stuff to we just talked about. Actually, my geometry students are actually doing this right now as well. So this is something you will see again in geometry. So as much as you think geometry is all just shapes, geometry also involves algebra and graphing. So if you guys can look at the warm up there. Yeah, I saw him take it in and I thought the same thing. Yeah. Yeah. What's that? Yeah. No. Yeah. No. Yeah. Right. No. Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'll move. All right, so wow. Okay, so in the equation y equals mx plus b, what does everything stand for? So there's 4 letters. What do they all stand for? What do you guys know? What do these letters stand for? And guys, your laptops can be closed. You don't need those out anymore. You did your lunch thing. You guys know. Tell me something you know. B is the y-intercept. So super important. B is our y-intercept. So B is the y-intercept. So again, that's where you begin on the y-axis. I didn't see many of you do this, but a few of you guys remembering to start on the y-axis. So it's where we begin on the y-axis. So where we begin on the y-axis, that's will see a y. What else do you guys know? Yep. Yeah, so m is our slope. It's how we move using rise over run. Oh, shoot. Oh, dang it. Okay, sorry. You can use this too if you want. Yeah, because we can always send that down to get clean. And then the x and y, what are those? So it's kind of like a weird trick question maybe. What is x and y in this case? Yeah, Reagan, what do you think? That hand.
Yeah, but right. Is the y with the x it stands for the x coordinate?
Yeah.
And then the y stands for the y coordinate?
Yeah, and so like in short, basically x and y are just points. And typically we leave these as variables. These are all the points on the line. So now there's infinite x's and y's for each equation. There's only one m and b. So these can be, I could find x's and y's on each line forever. Like I could say, let's find x's and y's that work for this equation. We could keep doing that for the rest of our lives. So this is infinite. There's more than we can ever count. Whereas a line just has a specific m, a specific b. So typically, we want to know what these are, and then these could be lots of different things, so we leave those as variables, because they can keep changing. All right. So that's what I was getting at here, is we need to know m and b. So we need to know or find m and b. And then the x and y, we're going to leave those as variables in our final equation, but we might be able to use those x and y's we know to kind of find m and b. So we're going to leave x and y as variables in the end. Boy band songs next door, it sounds like. Your final equations. So leave your x and y as variables in the final equations. Are you guys all good over here? Thank you. Walk around all day with ink on her. Yeah. It's a way to ruin a day.
Where's the coffee spill?
It is. Okay, so we're gonna what we're gonna do today is we're gonna kind of like ease our way into this. So we're gonna start, and we typically do it this way where we start easy and then work progressively tougher. So the first couple problems, you're gonna be like, really, that's it? And then it's gonna get a little bit tougher until we're, being able to write kind of equations of all kinds. So the first couple problems, why don't you guys take a minute to look at those? They give us the slope and y-intercept. Would you be able to write the equation of the line? And some of you guys I see already have, and that's all you have to do. So there's a lot of space there for not very difficult problems. So, so for examples 1 and 2, see if you guys can write that equation. And you might think, really, that's it? And yeah, that's it. If you guys understand what they're asking for there, it might be as simple as it sounds. Sorry, do you need me to flip back to anything?
No, yeah.
Okay. So they ask us to write the equation of the line and slope intercept form. That's that y equals mx plus b. that has a slope of 2/3 and a y-intercept of -7. So what have they just told us for our equation? What variables have they told us?
They told us the slope and y-intercept.
Slope and y-intercept. So slope stands for what again? M. And the y-intercept is our b. So it says we need to know or find m and b. We have m and b. So in this case, we can just write that into an equation. So in y equals mx plus b, I can just put those in. Plus a -7 or just -7 is fine. So something like this is really that easy. You're like, that's it? Yeah, but at the same time, as they get progressively tougher, don't forget we do have these easy ones that come up. So the first few problems in your homework are probably going to be this easy. And so we just take the m and b and put them in. The next one's a little bit weird when we write the equation. So that one might be a little bit kind of just different because stuff is missing. So slope in this case is 1. So again, that's our m. And our y-intercept is 0, m and b. How did you guys write this equation? What did you guys write for it? Yeah, go ahead, Clayton. Y equals x. Do you guys agree with him? Mm-hmm. That's probably the most simple way to write it. Did anyone else write it another way? Yeah. So 1x. That is also fine. Did anyone else write anything different? Yeah, and all of these, you guys, are perfectly fine. They mean exactly the same thing. So all of those are the same way to say the same thing. Kind of like hi and hello and like hey, like those are all the same thing of saying hello. Same idea here. All of these equations are acceptable. One's not right. Now, if you checked your book, they probably would have wrote it this way. They kind of write it the most simple way possible, like just not to be like redundant or like wasteful, I guess in ink maybe we'll say. So this is good, or like the best, but in terms of like checking your work, but all of these are perfectly acceptable. I wouldn't take off for the other ones, okay? So, and like a combination of them too, like if you put the +0 on that, that's fine. Okay, what happens then is they get a little trickier. Now, in these, they're not telling us everything. They're telling us now a point, it goes through 4, 3, and has a slope of 1/2. So we're going to miss something that we need. So what have they told us, and what do we need? Yep.
They told us if we need y and x.
Yeah,
They
so,
have those m.
yeah. So they told us a point. So I'm going to write that as x and y. And then they've told us m. But in order to write an equation correctly, we need what? B. So we need to find b. So it's not going to say to do this, but I'm going to remind you guys of that. So we're going to have to find what b is. But in the equation y equals mx plus b, there's 4 variables. We have 3 of them. If we have 3 out of the 4, we can find that 4th variable. Now you're already like, oh no, there's a fraction, yikes, but hopefully you see it's a half, it's not a terrible fraction. So what I'm going to do is substitute in everything I know, and that's going to allow me to find my b. So my y is 3. My m is a half, and what are m and x doing to each other? Multiplying. So I'm going to take a half and multiply it by 4, because that's x, and then I'm going to say plus b, but I don't know what b is. And I'll warn you guys already, my b's end up looking like 6s all the time, so like try to just remember that's b. Half of 4 is just 2. Yeah, what do you think? Yeah, and so, yeah, there are other ways to find b as well, if you can just kind of figure it out, but if we want to solve this, what do we do? What's that? What do we... we don't want to divide, we go to, yeah, we want to move the 2 over, so we're just going to subtract 2. Yep, it's just adding. So we're just going to subtract 2. There's not even as complicated as, like, more work. I mean, we're just solving for a variable. So we're getting that b alone. 3 minus 2 is just 1. So we found out b is 1.
1.
It is 1. Very good. So now we know m and b. In our equation, remember, is we want to find m and b, which we now have. So now we're going to put those together in the formula. So in our y equals mx plus b, we're going to put m and b in. So this will be 1/2 x. Don't forget about the x, that has to be there. And then plus 1. So there's our equation of our line that goes through that point with this slope. So we we're able to kind of come up with that based off of what we know. All right, why don't I give you guys a chance to try this one? I'll help you guys with it in a second. See if you guys can get that b there. I know, I saw it this morning. And I that's expectation, like, you know. But right. All right, so similar to what we just did, we have all the same information here. So they give us x and y. They give us m. And so that's going to allow us to find our b. So just like we did in this last one, we're going to put everything into the right spots. The biggest thing is I always think it's weird that it's y equals mx plus b, so we're starting with, you know, the 0, which is kind of strange here. So 0 equals mx, so -3 times 2 plus b. So I'm putting y equals mx plus b into the equation. Now -3 times 2 is a -6, right? Try to make my 6 look much different than my b. Then to get my b alone, what do I do? Add 6. Yep. So 0 and 6 is just going to be 6. So that's my b. So then our equation, we take our m and b and put them together. That's me moving too fast. This board needs me to move slow. It's trying to teach me to be more patient. Move a little slower. Yeah. That last semester I used to say that to All right, why don't we actually work on whiteboards a little bit. We've worked on whiteboards for a while. Okay, so if you guys want to, these first couple rows, want to go grab whiteboards and a marker. I guess I don't have, I can first Kleenex back there. Yeah. Yeah. If you guys want to grab a Kleenex, if that works better. Next couple rows, middle two.
I just saw. I saw. He. These are
No, I
Oh my god, wait. I iced it out. Whoa, you do that. There's a big one right now. Why is it so small? Look, you've got a tiny basket. Look. Why do you sit like that? Somebody wrote for it.
Okay, so we're gonna write the equation slope-intercept form, and I'll give you guys some different information. We kind of start easier, work our way a little bit tougher. Given the information they're gonna tell us. So again, just you show it. So the idea with the boards, you get to show it, and that way, not only the same people are always answering all the questions. And I know if we can move on, because this is again getting a little bit harder each time we do a new problem. So, so when we put the boards down again, we'll go back to our notes and it'll be a little bit tougher than the last time, so I don't want to move on until I'm sure everyone's ready. So, the first one will start real, hopefully. So write an equation, slope-intercept form like this, that has M and B.
I wrote a B, a D instead of a B.
B is a D.
That's.
Yep, yep. This one should be fast, yes. Good, yes. If you're nervous to check, always check the viewer first, yes. Yes, just make sure you're not just copying. Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. You're good, Lucas. Good.
Wow, that was that better? Go.
Work. See your step.
We're not gonna go like this.
Yeah, don't worry.
This has to be said.
Oh yeah.
We're all good over here. This one. What do you do with those? Okay, so that's why we're going to. They give us an we're going to put that 3 and 5 into the N for the M and B into that equation. You have to use the M and B that are over there. There you go, that's it. Okay, so yep, so this is a y equals mx plus b. We're just putting this in for m and b, so it's y equals 3x plus 5. And I know it sounds picky, the x has to be there. Every once in a while we kind of get sloppy and forget about the x, and just know that that is important. Oops, I lost my, it's taken some of it. Oh, shoot.
Interesting.
There we go. I think that's right. Okay, so this time, I'm giving you a y-intercept of -5 and a slope of -2. Yep. Yep, it's not much harder. Have to figure out what M and B are again. Luke, you're good. Tucker, you're good. You're good. You're good, Clayton. So guys, they're giving you what you need. Yep, good, good. Yep, you're good, Jared. Yeah, that's it. Yep, you got it. So this one, sorry, they're just giving you M and B. So they've already, B is the y-intercept. So you just put that in. Yeah, so guys, just remember, the y-intercept is the B, and this is the M. So they're giving us everything they need in this one. I was just trying to make sure you guys understood that M and B are the slope and y-intercept. So this is just y equals -2x minus 5. All right, we're going to make it a little bit tougher now. Oh, goodness. So I'm going to tell you that it goes through so it goes through 5, 2. It has a slope of -3. This time you have to find the B. So this is like examples 3 and 4 in our notes, if you guys want an example to look at. If you're good, good job. Yes, good job, Tucker. No, you don't have to divide. So this is like these that you just wrote down. They're giving you X, Y, and M. Put those in. You're good. And then don't forget you want to write it as a new equation with your M and B. So make sure you do write it as a new equation. You're good. Yep, you're good. Oh, you flipped your X. X should be 5. You never used 5. And then you did 2 is your Y.
I don't know where I got it.
No. Just making up numbers as I go along here. Yes. Yes. Yeah, good. Can't remember. Sometimes I'll tell you you're good more than once, so don't think I. Yes. Don't forget you have to rewrite it with just the M and B in the equation. Now you move this guy over. When you finish, you want to write just M and B in the equation. So you want to write just the M and B. Make sure you're taking better notes on this. So just take their M and the B you found, which is this. So you're giving you slope as -3, but you don't know B, so leave that as B. But you do know X and Y, so you can put 5 and 2, so you put 5 and for X. Be multiplication, so 2 and 4 Y. So the M is up there already, right? So it's -3, and then you want to write the equation. And then just put the M and B in. So now you're going to multiply those together. Yep, you're done. So -3. You don't know what B is yet. So then you'll move this over. It's a -15, so you'll add it over to the other side. So Y equals, and then you need your little X there. how are we doing? Okay. You done? Yeah. So, one of the big things is once we find our b, we have to make sure we go ahead and put that all back together again. So if I put this into y equals mx plus b, so y is 2, m is -3, x is 5. We're trying to find b. So I have a -15 plus b. So I'm going to add 15. So I find out b is 17. Once I know b is 17, I have to take that with the slope and put them back together again. Looks like most of you guys are getting there. Let's do one more. I'm going to throw a fraction in there. Front row. I'll keep the fractions easy though. So the point is 8 -2 and the slope is 1/2. So again, you're trying to find your b, and then once you find b, then you can go back and put it all together again. Good job. Good job. So half of 8 is how much? It's half of 8. Cut 8 in half. So put that. Okay. And you're trying to get the b alone. You guys are good. So you're going to move this over. You're going to subtract it. So you're moving it over the other side. Yep, got it. -6. Yeah, you go down 2 and down 4 more. You're good. Good job. And then you take your m and b and put it back together again. Good. Down 2, down 4 more. If you have it all set up right, so you're just taking half of 8. Half of 8 is how much? Yeah, that's the 4 there. Oh, so again, you just have to get used to writing it. All you do is you put your y and x back in. So you put x here and y there. And so then the final step is that you have to rewrite this with m and b in it. You have to subtract 4 here, so -2 minus. Yeah, go ahead. Alright, how are we doing, you guys? So this is a positive force and it's a subtract force that makes it a negative. I think you for x and y flipped. Because you have the 8 in the place of the y. I think that's really wrong. Yeah. That's a really common, that's probably the most common mistake. Yeah. We're good. Alright, I'm going to talk up here, guys. So, in y equals mx plus b, so I'm going to have a -2 as my y. My slope is 1/2. My x is 8. Half of 8 is just 4, so this works out really nicely. But obviously, feel free to use a calculator if you're not super confident. And then when I move that 4 over, I'm going to subtract it to solve for b. Don't forget we're solving here, so you undo. So we find out b is -6. So I end up 1/2 x minus 6. Okay? So we're going to take a minute to clean up boards. So if this group, this side, kind of the order you guys went in the last time, and feel free to grab for a friend, help out.
Lucy, you're a very beautiful, independent woman. Thank you. Griffin's a very big man.
I'm sorry, Griffin, I tripped over your thing. That's nice.
Luke, you an independent woman, like
You are good.
you an independent woman.
You little woman. Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's gone. It was right there.
everybody's an independent woman.
Okay. So guys, the next type of problems we're going to talk about are going to get a little bit tougher. So this time I actually wrote down steps because it does require about 3 steps to get to where we need to be. So this time, they're not giving us the slope or the y-intercept. They just give us 2 points. So we need to find m and b in this case. Do you guys have an idea of one that would be easy to find, easy-ish to find?
It's gonna be negative.
What?
What do you think? The slope. We have a formula to find the slope if we have 2 points. So that's going to be our first thing to look for here, or to find, is our slope. So we can use that slope formula, which is why I wanted you guys to memorize it because we use it a lot. And so this formula allows us to find the slope if we have 2 points. And like shockingly, they gave us 2 points. Like we're in a good spot there. So they give us x and y, and again, remembering like we do with our notes or our tests, we just had this on our test yesterday, we're going to subtract the y's. And again, be really careful with negatives and positives. That was probably one of the ones that, like, lots of little mistakes on this question on the test. Minus a negative 3. So you're subtracting the y's. And then I'll subtract the x's. So on top, I really get 1 plus 3, which is 4. On the bottom, I get negative 4 minus 4, so it's going to keep going down. Negative 8. What happens when I simplify that? It's a negative half. Yep. And then negative again can go on the top or the bottom or in the middle, wherever you guys want to put it. It's just going to be negative. We're not done yet. We found the slope, so we found m. Don't forget, we still need to find b. And this kind of turns into the problem like we just had, that we were just doing on the whiteboards, where if I know m, and I know a point, I actually know 2 points, I can also now find the b. We can just pick one of the 2 points to use. So we're going to pick a point to use. I'm just going to say an x and y. And then we're going to use the m to find b. So again, we just found m. Does anyone have a preference on which point looks better to them? We're going to use that one because that's what Clayton said. We listened to Clayton today. So there's our point we're going to use. We're going to pick just that one. Now, if you're like, I want to get crazy, I want to pick the other point, that's fine. It doesn't matter which one you pick. That's kind of the cool thing about the line, is it can be either point. If you don't trust me, you can try it and see. And you're going to end up with the same b as us. So remember, we're going to put this into that equation. So our y is negative 3. Our slope is a negative half. Our x is 4. And then we need to figure out what b is. Good news is taking half of 4 is not bad. But careful, it's a negative half of 4. Where do we get that? Negative half of 4 is negative 2. Not quite done yet. We still need to figure out what b is, so how do we get b alone? Add 2. So negative 3 plus 2 gives us 1. Oh, negative 1, sorry, is our b. And then our final step is kind of just like, we know what we need to do, hopefully, is use m and b to write that. Put m and b into y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to put these two in there. So I put my m and I put my b. I believe the next one just asks you guys to do the same thing. So if you guys want to start working on the next one, follow the same 3 steps. I'm still leaving it up here so they can write it down. So if you guys want to get started on the next one, follow the same steps. You have to first find the slope. So use that slope formula. And then you want to simplify that slope. I think it simplifies pretty nicely. You can always tear the notes apart if you just want to look at the table them after if you want to be able to see your steps. Did you already get the one that I told you guys to try? Not that one. This one here. Oh, yeah. I kind of I was like, you really got that far ahead of me? Like, that was pretty impressive. But okay. So 4.4 is the whole one. Okay, I'll write it myself at home. Flip the page in a second here. Well, no, I haven't flipped the page on me yet. So. And maybe, if you want to check with some of your values, see if you guys got the same thing. I'm just trying to wait for everyone to finish this sheet of notes. So. Seeing a few different B's, so I'm thinking we have to check our B's, so don't go too far without me. Nate, are you all good on this now? Yeah. Okay, so hopefully you guys realize we have to first find the slope. So we're going to do that first. So I would do 0 minus 3 over 7 minus 10. So I get a negative 3 over negative 3. Careful, what do you guys get then? A positive 1. Did you have a negative 1? Okay, so here's what we need to talk about. So if your slope is wrong, I'm sorry, your B is going to be wrong, unless you got really, really lucky and somehow skirted or made another mistake. So M is 1. If you have a negative 1, your B is probably going to be wrong. Sorry. So it's so important to get that slope correctly, which is again why I was so picky on that test about the sign of the slope, because it impacts everything else. Now we have to take one of these 2 points to find our B. Which one do you guys want to use? 10, 3? Okay. That's what I heard first, but usually I avoid the one that has any negatives in it if I have my choice. These are both positive, so it doesn't really matter. So my x is 10, my y is 3, and my slope is 1. I know all that information. I want to find b. And thank goodness there's no fractions this time to worry about, but I have to put everything in the right spots. So I'm doing 1 times 10, which is just 10. So I have to move that 10 over. So I find out 3 minus 10 is negative 7. So my b is going to be a negative 7. And again, your b was going to be wrong if you had the wrong slope. Now on a test, just know that you wouldn't get the whole question wrong. So the fact that a lot of you guys were doing a great job of showing your work, I would have gone through and saw, oh, they had negative 1 for the slope, and then I'd figure out what your b should be with the wrong slope. So know that that's why I want you guys to show work in case you make a silly mistake like that. Last step is we put this all together in our slope-intercept form, which would be y equals 1x minus 7 plus a negative 7. We just have x minus 7 if you'd like, but that's our equation of our line. Okay? So did you find where you went wrong? If you guys made a mistake, hopefully you guys fixed that. The last two we're going to do can be tough if you're not great at graphing. They can be really easy if you're really comfortable with your graph. Because this next one, like some of you guys won't even need to do like different steps with it or won't have to think too much about it. Some of you guys might even look at it and be like, oh, I can tell what that equation is without even, really doing a whole lot of work. Because finding the slope in this case, if it's on the graph, I wouldn't suggest using the formula this time. What would you do to find the slope? Any suggestions for finding the slope here? Yeah.
Use two the dots and then just count rise over run.
Yeah, rise over run is really, really helpful. So we need our m and b. So the slope, we can use rise over run here. If I have a graph, I like rise over run better than that slope formula. There's so many places to go wrong with that slope formula. Rise over run is nice. Looking at this right away, I can already tell this is a nice negative slope because it's going downhill. I think about slope dude. And I would be going down 2. And then over, is that 5? Yeah. And positive 5? Yep. The y-intercept, you might think, oh, now we have to do all that algebra with negative 2 over 5. No, you don't have to do all that algebra. To find b, how do we find b? Look at. Yeah, we can see where it crosses the y-axis. That's our b. Our b value is the y-intercept. So actually, from the graph, the b is really easy to find. Now, don't get y and x-intercept mixed up. Y-intercept's the one we want. The x-intercept is not really all that helpful for this equation. So we have everything. So if you didn't need to write these steps, I'm totally okay with that. I saw some of you guys just wrote the equation down at the start, and that is fine with me. Slow down, Donahue. All right. So our equation, pretty easy. Got it. Let's look at the last one, and then, and this one is one of those that I feel like is so easy, sometimes it's hard. That sounds like a weird oxymoron, but sometimes it's just so straightforward and yeah. All right, rise over run in this case, you guys. Rise over run. If I go up to there, that's up 8 over 8. What's 8 over 8? Just 1. So my slope in this case is just 1. Yeah. Right, so like what Clayton said was that he didn't even go all that far. He just saw, well, wait, it just goes here, it goes here, it goes here, like it's just a single up and over, up and over. So he didn't even have to go all the way up. So if you see things like that, use that for sure. Where does it begin?
Origin.
It begins at the origin, so our b is just 0. So this is such a basic graph that sometimes we're like, really, that's it? You probably do just overthink it. So again, 1x plus 0, or you can just say, whoops, if I can know what I'm doing here. Y equals x is just fine. So yeah, So just understanding how to write those equations. Now, you guys, I'm going to really suggest that you're getting stuck on your homework today. Use your notes to help you. Almost every problem in your homework is similar to a notes question, and I do that intentionally so that you're not stuck on your homework. So please make sure you guys are using that to help you, okay? Questions? All right, homework is listed there for you guys. Reminder, you guys are always welcome to come see me during AR if needed.